So I'm sure most of you guys have not heard about this story because the victim was a white woman and the perpetrator was an Aboriginal woman. But on Thursday, police charged a 35-year-old woman with attempted murder after Rosalia Melchis, I can't really pronounce the last name, Melch something, 64, was pushed in front of a train arriving at the Victoria Park Stampede station in Calgary. So, you see right away the way the article is framed. Daughter of woman pushed in front of C train speaks out about life changing injuries. She is a fighter. But, nowhere in this article does it mention the woman's race. Nowhere. But for a fact, if a white woman pushed an Aboriginal woman onto a C train, it would be white woman pushes Aboriginal woman onto C train. And the fucked up thing is this Stephanie Favell woman who did this, she was previously in 2015 charged with attempted murder after stabbing this guy in this fucking house, her and this other girl. But then in 2016 the charges were dropped. And I tried to research this, figure out why, but I just couldn't find out the reason. So it is especially hard to find out things to do with Aboriginal people and their crimes a lot of the times, because it's like I just did this test today, on Google. I put white woman, and this is the first thing that popped up. White woman blocks black man from getting into building. White woman is racist to black people. White women are, furthering white supremacy. White woman does this to black person. White woman racist. White woman that. Then I put, white man, the same thing. Then I put Aboriginal woman, and it's this missing and murdered Aboriginal women, and this and that, colonization of white people towards Aboriginal women, or you put black woman, same thing, black women are strong, black God, black women and won the party or won the Democrats the election or some shit, right? I was just checking it today. But when you put in white man, white woman, all you see is crimes. And the news agencies do this on purpose, right? They know this is how the YouTube or the Google algorithm works, right? So yeah, when you're looking for black on white crime or Aboriginal on white crime, it's a lot harder to find because they don't mention the race, they don't mention anything, they mention just names. But when it's the reverse, you'll see white man, white cop, white woman does this to other person. That's to make it really easy for people to just type it into Google and find 100 million examples of white on black racism or whatever, so it just furthers their biases even more. But this is all done on purpose. But this woman, she should have been in jail already. But why was she not? Because first of all, she is a woman, and as we know, the justice system treats women like fucking children. They give them a free pass on most things. They give them a light sentence, especially in Canada. A lot of the times it's be oh, well, you're crazy. That one guy, Vincent Lee, who cut the head off of people a few years ago, is walking around free with nobody monitoring him. There's a bunch of other crazies they release. It's they don't give a shit. This girl was clearly disturbed, insane. She did this attack on this woman unprovoked. No reason. There was no altercation. One guy was standing next to her, saw it, and was like, what the fuck? And luckily the train was able to stop on time, because this woman, she could have been killed, but now she's going to be a paraplegic for the rest of her fucking life. She was already disabled, but now she's in the fucking hospital bed. She can only speak with her fingers and writing on a piece of paper, and she's going to need help for the rest of her fucking life. And people did have started a GoFundMe for her. I'm going to put the link in the description, and if you can donate, please give if you can. This is another example of how we don't have a complete free healthcare system in Canada. People still need a lot of help, And, if you can't spare anything, throw it towards this woman, because from what I hear, she sounds like a great woman that would give the shirt off of her back to strangers. And she's just been struggling even before this event happened. But now this fucking bitch comes in and does this. But we all know if the races were reversed, it would be a huge national issue. Trudeau would be condemning it, and then there'd be these Aboriginal groups calling for more funding, more money to combat violence against Aboriginal women and all this crap, right? And like, once again, why was this girl not in prison? What was the reasoning behind it? Oh, well, she's discriminated against, she's marginalized because she's Aboriginal, so let's give her probation, and she'll just even though she stabbed some guy, that's not really indicative of her being violent again. It's like, okay, these people, they get a slap on the wrist, and then the regular people like us pay for it, because the elites, people like Trudeau, they live in their fucking mansions. They're isolated from all of the things that they bring into our country. They're not dealing with fucking refugees in their country. They're not dealing with the crime problem in Toronto, people getting shot left, right, and center. Like, they don't have to deal with that. They live in their own homes, in their own gated communities, far, far away from that, right? It's sickening. Like, Toronto right now is thinking of buying a hotel for the fucking refugees. Like, really? You're gonna buy a hotel for them while we have homeless Canadians that have been homeless for years, that have been struggling for years, and you're just gonna spit on them? Because that is what he is doing. This mass immigration right now, that is essentially what it means. It means that, hey, fuck all you regular Canadians that whose ancestors built this country. We're not going to invest in you. We're not going to do any of that. We're going to comply with businesses, and they're going to say, like, oh, we don't want to pay these people more money. They want too much money. They want too many luxuries. So instead of paying them higher wages or anything like that, let's just bring in tons and tons and tons of immigrants to stagnate the wages, so then we don't have to pay them as much, so then we can pay these people to come in and do the jobs that they don't want to do, right? And this whole policy is just selling us down the river. Like, that is what it is. It's like, at one point, no point in history, has a country been like, well, I don't really like my people, in France, like hundreds of years ago, like, well, let's bring Englishmen in here instead to work the businesses, because all these French people don't want to do it. Let's bring a bunch of all these other people in to completely change our culture to comply with these people who want to pay people like practically nothing to work for them. So, it's like, fuck this shit. This is insane. But, nothing is really going to be talked about with this. This is going to be international fucking story. And I'm not saying it should be. I'm not saying it should be like, oh, look, these Aboriginals, and we gotta, they're Aboriginal supremacy and attacking white people and all this shit. I'm not saying let's make this into an issue, but I'm just pointing it out and being like, you see how these articles are written. You see how the races are never mentioned. You see there's no virtue signaling coming around. There's nobody doing anything. There's nobody like bringing attention to this to try to, get her more money. So it's crazy. And we need to take care of our own fucking people. And, we can't keep slapping, like giving us a slap on the wrist to women, to minorities when they commit crimes, because it's just going to make the problem worse. This is why in Broward County there was that Cruz kid that went and got away and was able to kill all these people, because Obama implemented all these policies to stop the prison to school or the school to prison pipeline. So essentially, they were just ignoring a lot of the shit that the minority students were doing. Like people like Cruz, who did get off from policies like this, and then later on he got more violent and killed like dozens of people at his school. So it's like, you know, if you just avoid this political correctness and just be like, okay, we're going to administer the law the same on everybody, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race, regardless of their victim status, then, you know, society, we wouldn't have things like this lady being pushed onto a C train, because this fucking woman should have been in prison already, but she wasn't. Like, what would they have done anyways? Put her in a fucking healing lodge, which they most likely would have done, and now they're making some changes to it. Oh, now, if you have a long sentence, we're not going to put you there. It's like, nobody should be going there. That's a bullshit fucking thing. It's like, you know, the same place that woman, that child killer, has been sent to. One woman just last week, or a few days ago, escaped from that place. You know, I remember reading an article a few weeks ago. They're like, oh, it's in the middle of nowhere, a barren wasteland, essentially. They're not going to escape from there. Well, there was already one. And a week before that, there was a guy who escaped from a male healing lodge. So these are just bullshit things that don't do anything. They don't change the recidivism rate. Like, you know, people come back to prison at the same rates as they do going to a regular prison, as opposed to these healing lodges. So, you know, it just becomes a resort for Aboriginal people. So what does that really discourage people from doing crime? They're like, well, fuck it, I'll just go to a healing lodge and learn about my culture. You know, that's not so bad. You know, that's one of the only benefits. I think that's what they were saying. Well, they come back with a more understanding of their culture. Hey man, you can do that on your own fucking free time. You don't have to do that in prison, and we should not have to pay for that shit. And, you know, it's some bullshit fucking program probably set up by goddamn liberals to pander to Aboriginals for their fucking vote. And doing that is just going to create more crime and put more people in danger, like this innocent fucking woman that is now paraplegic for the rest of her fucking life. Like, but no, they don't care. They don't give a shit. He's gonna go and buy fucking 10 fucking vehicles for $26 million, and then sell them back for a fucking bargain. He doesn't care about us. He doesn't give two shits about the amount of money he wastes, the amount of lives that he throws away. He doesn't care about us being replaced, because he is insulated. People like him have their mansions, have their fucking gated communities, have their jets that they can go to another country and shit. He's got all his money in overseas fucking accounts that if our currency goes to shit, he'll be fine. This is why these globalists don't give a fuck what happens in our countries. They don't give a shit what happens to our currencies, because they can go to any country they want. They have money in all these different types of currencies. It doesn't matter what happens to one country, because they're already globalists. They already live like globalists. They don't need a passport to go to different countries. They just need their jet, and then, okay, well, you can come in, you can live here. You know, they don't need immigration papers. You know, the rich, they don't follow the same rules, same laws as us. They don't have to follow any of that shit. And, you know, if you have your eyes open, you can see that. You know, look at rich people who get charged for anything. How many of them really go to prison? Very few. You know, look at the corporations that go and kill lots of people, like knowingly, by selling like drugs that are going to kill people or whatnot. They don't care, because they're not going to get punished by it, because the corporations are protected by the state. You know, when corporations were made into people, essentially that made it so it's like everybody in that company is now impossible to sue, pretty much. So then they can do things with impunity. Doesn't matter. And so people say, oh, that's capitalism. It's not capitalism, it's corporatism. If you confuse the two, you're a fucking idiot. I don't want to hear from you. Leave my fucking channel right now, because you do not understand statism, capitalism, you know, these different forms of government, and you know, the impact that the government has on the free market. So, you know, But nonetheless, you know, I kind of lost my train of thought. You know, there's this woman here, and like I said, there is a GoFundMe. I'm going to put it in the link below. Please give if you can. I'm going to give some money. You know, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but just show that we have her back. That Canadians, you know, we need to watch out. We need to care for each other. Because as we see, the government, Trudeau, doesn't give two shits about old stock Canadians anymore. He doesn't care. He's forgotten 100% about us. And I'm not saying we need to implement socialism for white people. No, fuck that shit. What we need to do is let white people, let everybody in Canada, it doesn't matter your race, keep more of their own money, and then you know, and then not be dependent on all of these welfare type systems. And this will help foster more of a community, more interpersonal relationships between families. This will create stronger families because we'll be forced to rely on each other and not the government to take care of one another. And then when people like this are hurting and need money, we can all come together as a community and help her. We don't need the government to have welfare and steal from other people to give this girl, you know, help. We can give her help ourselves. We can just be good people and donate. It doesn't take much money. Like, you know, she's trying to raise, like, I think $100,000. They've already raised $10,000 in like the first day. So, you know, there's how many? Close to 40 million people in Canada. 100,000 people gives $1 to this woman. Her problems are solved, right? You know, so we can do this. You know, please show your support. And if you like my video, like, subscribe, and have a good day. See ya.